Hello and welcome to the Arsenal Ramble, where today we're going to be discussing the upcoming Premier League clash against Man United. As ever, to go through all this with me, I'm joined by my co-rambler Dom. How are you, mate? You all good?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you, mate. It's Thursday today, so we're a step closer to the weekend and a step closer to that big fixture.
Yeah, it seems like it's been a long-awaited fixture because normally we have a midweek game, obviously a Europa League or a League Cup game, but this week seems to have dragged, having no midweek game. So yeah, I'm glad it's just round the corner now. But sorry, was you going to say something?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I was going to say there was actually a midweek game, and it wasn't us, and it was the
True.
team that we're playing. It's Man United, and I'm glad that they ended up dropping points in that game. Shall we chat about that a little bit first?
Yeah, why not? It was a cracking finish, to be fair, by Elise, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely outstanding, wasn't it? I genuinely didn't think that he'd be able to put it in top bins from there, especially after David De Gea's form from that game. But uh,
Mm.
Patrick Vieira doing bits for us, really, getting them to drop 2 points.
Yeah, that is. I mean, it's not necessarily important in the title chase, but it just takes that little bit of pressure off, doesn't it? Makes the game at the weekend not as imperative, um, and
Yeah.
it just puts doubts in the United players' minds. Did you see his reaction to the goal, though? I thought that was quite odd. I didn't quite understand why he just didn't celebrate. You know, you'd think a last minute equaliser against United, you'd think you'd be absolutely buzzing, but nothing.
Yeah, I think you usually get that when a player's played at that team before, kind of the whole no celebration thing. But no, for whatever reason, he just kind of scored an absolute screamer and then just stood there like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't understand it, but
Yeah,
yeah, saying the magnitude of them dropping points, if Man United were to have won that game and at least they didn't equalise, then they would have been on what 41 points. They would have 2 more points,
mm.
and then if I don't want to wish us bad luck, but say if we did end up losing to them on Sunday,
Yeah,
then they would then be on 44 points and we would be on 47. So they'd only be three
mm.
points behind us. So it's so important for them to have dropped points there. And if
Yeah.
we do beat them on Sunday, we'll be 11 clear.
Wow. Psychologically, yeah, it's massive. It really is massive. So, thank you, Elise. But before we go into the Man United game, I think it's probably worthwhile discussing today's breaking news. I mean, 9 a.m. news circulated that we were linked with Trossard. Well, more than just linked, but the rumours were starting to heat up a little bit that we'd
Mm,
approached them.
yeah.
Then, sort of 3, 4 hours later, it turns out we've made an offer, and then before the end of the day, it's apparently a done deal. And this is reputable journalists reporting on this. Um, so, you know, Brighton's Leandro Trossard, he's apparently coming on a 20, well, for 21 million plus 5 or 6 in add-ons, 4-year deal. Wages are under 100k, I believe. He's 28 years old, which again has been heavily discussed on Twitter. A lot of people discussing his age.
Mm.
What were your thoughts on this one?
Well, the first thing to say is we both start to feel quite old when people are mentioning 28,
Yeah,
saying about how that's
I
almost
know.
a has been kind of player. But no, I personally, I think we spoke about this before. I said that Trossard would be the perfect player for us to get, just because he's such a low risk signing for Arsenal. He's someone who's Premier League proven. He can score with either his left or his right foot, so he can go off either flank, which means he's great cover for both Martinelli and Saka.
Mm.
Um, he comes with a low fee as well, so it's not much of a risk in terms of price. So he won't have a price tag on his head. And you can he's a quality player. He's scored against some of the best teams. In fact, some of the highlight reels of his is against Liverpool and Man City,
Yeah.
and they weren't just tap-ins; they were screamers, or he'd dribble around a player and score. So uh, I'm really happy. I'm really happy to have. Well, it's not quite complete yet, but I'm happy to have the talks be so advanced at this stage. It seems
Yeah.
like the whole process for this deal was absolutely rapid, and why can we not do
Mm.
that all the time?
I guess for me, it was probably because this was a very achievable deal in
Mm.
Arsenal's eyes, and they were probably prioritizing, your Mudricks and when these deals obviously didn't come to fruition, they've thought about Plan B, C, D. Um, doesn't necessarily mean that he won't have the same impact as our Plan A. I think at first, I remember discussing with you maybe a week ago when there was sort of little niggly rumours around Trossard. And initially, I was a little bit like, I, I was a bit put off. I don't really know why. I think it was just I had my heart set on Mudrick,
Mm.
and he was this like wow factor player, and I was really wanting to have someone of that caliber come in. Um, but having reflected upon it a little bit more, I agree with what you're saying. He's a versatile player. He's got Premier League experience, and not just experience. He's been one of Brighton's best players. Let's have it right. He scored a lot of goals this season, um, big goals as well, like you say. He also he's very two-footed, which is exactly what Arteta likes, because that literally means he can play on either side, and it not impact the inverted role that Arteta likes. He statistically, I saw a stat that he'd take him 19 shots from his left and 19 shots from his right this season. Last year, he took 28 shots with his left and 28 shots with his right. So he's consistently a two-footed player that will, use whatever space he's got available. He's not going to prioritize one foot. We saw that with Pepe. It really did
Yeah.
impact his ability to be able to take on players and just do the basics, cross the ball and things like that. So that does excite me, to be fair.
Yeah, yeah, it completely nullifies your game, doesn't it, to a certain extent, where if a player knows that you're only going to use your left foot, then they're going to try and stop you from using that, and then you're completely nullified. But yeah, I think the thing that was cropping up about his age and his so-called, like, his ceiling, so to speak, that he's not going to achieve the heights that maybe a Martinelli or a Saka might be able to achieve in their career. But this guy, he's already in his peak, and he's 28 years old, and I don't think that's much of a problem really, because he's coming from a team like Brighton, and Arsenal's a fairly big step up for a team like Brighton to go from a team like Brighton, sorry. And he's not going to be putting too much pressure on the manager to be in the starting 11 every week. He's going to be he should be happy with being a rotation player and being a cover player. And for example, we've got Plan A, so we've got Martinelli, we've got Saka, and they're who we're going to start anyway. But if one of those players does unfortunately get injured, then we've got a player who's in his prime, he's well experienced, he knows the league, and he can come in, slot in, and do a job. And that's exactly what we've got Trossard for, and we've got him for a good price.
Yeah, Belgium international as well. Not to forget, this guy's got international experience. Do you know what it reminds me of? A couple of years back, well, more than a couple of years back, when Liverpool had their Mane and Salah. No winger is getting in the team ahead of those two, but they signed a Premier League proven Shaqiri, and he came in. He wasn't never guaranteed minutes, but he'd come in off the bench. He'd fill in the League Cup games and the Champions League group stage games and things like that, and he would score goals, he would contribute, and he'd provide that cover and strength in depth. And I think that for me, Trossard reminds me a lot of that. He's that utility player, but with enough experience and ability to really push the players around him and hopefully provide plenty of goals and assists.
Yeah, and there's another side of it there as well that you've just briefly touched on, the fact that with Trossard coming into the team and having all that experience, then it might push Martinelli or Saka to up their game a little bit, because they know that they're not the only player that can fill that role. So if their form does start to dip, then Arteta could say, well, I'm going to put Trossard in for this game. Or if you don't start to perform, then Trossard's in, kind of thing. And yeah, it might elevate the performances a little bit. But yeah, I know what you're saying. I think they did a similar thing with Diogo Jota as well, didn't they? They brought him in just as like an extra forward, and he really did fill in and play some great games, didn't he? So yeah, I think it's that kind of stopgap signing that is necessary for a team that's trying to win the league, really. Because if you look, I know we've talked about our squad, our strength and depth a lot, but if you look at our bench, we really don't have many options when it's, say, if we're trying to claw a game back or anything like that. But I've actually got a picture here of Man City's bench from tonight's game, because they're playing Spurs tonight. So it is pretty disgusting. But so their goalkeeper is Ortega, but then on the bench they've got Kyle Walker, Ruben Diaz, João Cancelo, Aymeric Laporte, Calvin Phillips, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva and Phil Foden. Now, every single one of the players that is on the Man City bench would probably walk into, I'd say, pretty much every team in the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? So that's the kind of level that we're competing with. And for us to get a little bit worried to say, oh, well, we don't know if there's going to be enough room in the team to have Trossard. There absolutely is room in the team to have Trossard when you have your competition having a wealth of substitutions like that, isn't there? So,
it was crucial we made a wide forward signing in this window, especially with the position that we find ourselves in. We've dropped 5 points to this point. We've got a real good chance of going all the way now. So it would be foolish not to give us the ammunition to be able to really push for it. I am happy with it. I really am happy with it, and he is going to provide our bench with that option now. And he's not known as being a pacey player, is he, in long distances? But he has got that real burst of pace. He can really take on a player in a short space and push past them. And I think that's exactly the sort of type of winger Arteta likes. He likes short, bursty, pasty players, and it doesn't necessarily mean you need to be like Martinelli and be able to out sprint everybody. Because to be fair, that doesn't. Well, to be fair, it does come in, in handy quite often, but it's not something that we utilise to our strengths that much, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not a necessity, and like the same with Emile Smith-Rowe, he's quick over short bursts, isn't he? But he's not an Olympic sprinter, so to speak. He's not going to absolutely burn you down the left-hand side, but his close control and his quick touches around the box are what we need to be able to unlock defences sometimes. And if you have players like Trossard linking up with Odegaard and Saka and Nketiah around the box, then we're going to unlock so many more teams at the back. And especially when every time we play teams now, they play this low block and they play so negatively, he's going to be a real key player to have. And and going into the rest of the season, we've not just got the Premier League, we've got the Europa League as well, and he's going to be a key feature in that. And we've also got the FA Cup. So if we want to do well in those competitions, to have another chance at silverware, I'd say an alternative route to Champions League, but I don't want to jinx it, but it looks like we probably will have Champions League, won't we, next season? But and that is another thing, thinking for the future. We're going to need players like Trossard in the team if we want to compete in the Champions League.
Yeah, I've heard rumours as well that apparently he might be able to, if he has his medicals and whatnot tonight or tomorrow morning, and there's a good chance he'll be able to be registered in time to be on the bench for United. So that's good. That's big. Because like you say, in previous games, we've just not had those attacking options. I think most of our substitutions have been defensive, haven't they? And Vieira's not really been used. So that could come in handy. Who knows?
Yeah.
Should we get a little bit more into the Man United game, or the upcoming Man United game then? So I was going to start with team sheets, but really it just speaks for itself now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think unless there's any injuries between now and Sunday, then the team's going to be exactly the same one that we played against Spurs, isn't it? We're not going to have any changes at all, and we shouldn't really need any changes because every player performed outstandingly. Um, but yeah, as you say, I think if Trossard is available on that day, then given depending on the game state, then he might be able to make a little cameo appearance towards the end of the game. Might be nice to see Smith Rowe as well get on the pitch towards the end of the game as well.
Yeah.
A couple of extra forward players, but yeah, starting team sheet for us will be the same against Spurs. But a big talking point is actually for Man United, and they are going to be without their main midfielder Casemiro now. After he got a yellow card the other night, how big is that for us?
I do think it's big. I even tweeted on our Twitter page as well that he probably did it on purpose just to avoid that Partey comparisons that he knew he was going to lose. You know, Partey is the best number 6. He thought, I'll let him have it. I'll get a purposeful booking. But no, yeah, him and Rashford are their two informed players at the end of the day, aren't they?
Yeah.
I can't think of many other players in that team that are particularly playing, good football at the minute. So, and to be fair, their alternative is McTominay.
Yeah,
So we're going to have a likely.
Fred.
Yeah, well, Fred's must be playing. It's going to be a McFred midfield, I would imagine.
But that being said, Fred always seems to turn up against us. For some reason, he turns into like prime Pele when he plays against Arsenal, which is worrying. But yeah, it's great that that Casemiro is not going to be playing in that game, just because one of our biggest attacking threats, and definitely recently, is Martin Odegaard in those central areas. Now, if they have Casemiro policing that area, then it does nullify Odegaard's ability to be able to create and to be able to have a chance, etc. But yeah, if he's not going to be there, then hopefully we can exploit that area.
Yeah, I think we will. Odegaard is in massive form. Zinchenko as well, who's been sort of really pushing up into that midfield role. We saw it in against Tottenham. We literally were playing with 3 at the back, weren't we, for the majority of that game? And I think with us being at home, it will be similar circumstances. We're gonna go really hard in the first half, pressure them into getting deeper and deeper, utilise Zinchenko in that midfield, and dominate McTominay and Fred, and ultimately, hopefully, pressure them into causing some chances for ourselves. So I think it's going to be quite a similar game to Tottenham. Actually, I do think that.
I think it's going to be a similar game to the game that we played against them at Old Trafford as well. I think we're going to have a lot of dominating possession, and their only real threat's going to be on the counter. And it is quite a big threat, as we saw when we were at Old Trafford. We need to keep an eye on that. But I do feel like with the likes of Ben White and William Saliba and his recovery pace, that we should be able to deal with it and learn from the mistakes that we made last time that we were playing against Man United. But yeah, I do feel if we keep sustained pressure in the first half, maybe get a goal and then control the game, and then if we then maybe sit back a little bit, then they've not got the threat in behind, and I don't think they'll be able to break us down.
I can't see any obvious route for United in this game. I mean, Rashford is obviously the main one, but because we're at home, I think we went to the home game last year, didn't we, at the Emirates? And
Oh yeah.
we didn't even play. We didn't play well. We literally did not play that well. But we still won 3-1. Was it? It was
I think
the Xhaka Thunderbolt goal, wasn't it? Game.
it was the game where Nuno Tavares scored in like the first minute or so, and then he was absolutely awful for the rest of the game. Like, he probably had his worst performance of that match of that season. Sorry, for the rest of the game, but he scored and he kind of made the difference. But yeah, Granit Xhaka's goal was unbelievable, wasn't it? We were right behind him as well, and we watched that nestle into the net. It was bloody lovely. So a repeat of that would be great. If we could have that again, just carbon copy it, 3 points, and then we move on.
Yeah, we do always turn up against United at home. Unfortunately, they tend to do it vice versa at their ground. We always struggle away at Old Trafford, don't we? But I'm hoping the fact that the only team to have beat us this season doesn't get into the Arsenal players' heads. I hope they use that as fuel to want revenge almost, because it was a frustrating game with, I hate to discuss it all the time, but referee errors, wasn't it? We had that Martinelli disallowed goal and things like that, which has now been confirmed by VAR that it should have been allowed. So the worst circumstances that went against us in that game. So I'm hoping they can use that to really fuel and want to get one over on United for that lucky sort of fixture. To be fair.
Oh yeah, the boys are going to be well up for it as well, aren't they? If they weren't up for the Spurs game, they'll definitely be up for this one. Do you know what I mean? It it's proving right or wrong. You know what I mean? It's the only team that's actually beaten this team as a full squad, because it's a lot different to last season. This team, and so it's the first team that's actually beaten us, and they're going to want to prove that wrong, prove it right. Even I don't know. I'm not. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say.
I know what you mean.
But they're gonna go out there and they're gonna want to perform and maybe even put to bed any worries about Man United. And if we do end up winning that game, then it does look really difficult for Man United to get themselves a leg back into the title race.
Yeah, it's like when Leicester won the league and we were the only team to beat them twice, weren't we, in that season?
Yeah.
And I remember that it still gets brought up now, hence why I'm doing it because it's something that you remember. And I would hate for them to do 6 points on us, and it's always brought up. So,
however,
if we can get
that being said, if it's to follow the same pattern, then if United do beat us twice, then that just means we're going to win the league anyway. So we can't really lose, can we, at the weekend?
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind.
Win.
I wouldn't mind United fans bringing that up. To be honest, if we'd won the league, I'd be like, "Well, you didn't win anything, so
whatever. We'll take that." Any other threats do you think for United? I'm thinking about their new signing, Wout Weghorst. I think that's how you pronounce it. The Dutch striker. I think he's like 6'5". He's just a big number 9. Do you think that could cause us any problems?
I mean, yeah, on set pieces potentially could cause us a few problems. It's not a threat that you'd usually link with Man United. They're more of a counter-attacking team. So yeah, that could be another dimension, to be honest, especially if they go behind and they're trying to put pressure on us, so they're having corners and set pieces, so etc. But I don't know. Yeah. He was quite underwhelming when he played at Burnley. He had a pretty good World Cup, but from what I saw when he was playing at Burnley, he really wasn't that great of a player. So no, I'm not really worried about him. This might bite me in the bottom if he scores a hat-trick over the weekend, but I honestly can't see him causing us too much trouble, because Saliba and Gabriel, they're not small lads, are they? They should be able to deal with the physicality of him, and he's not the fastest player, so he's not going to run in behind them either. So no, I'm not really too worried. What about you? If there is a player that I would be worried about who's a bit of an unknown quantity, it would be Garnacho, just because I've not really seen that much of him, but every time I've seen him play, he's looked like a bit of an enigma. He's quite quick. He's got good feet. He can shoot from outside the box. So if there's anyone that I would be worried about, it would be him.
Yeah, he does look quite tricky and hard to predict at times, I think. In fact, he was the player that spun. I can't remember who was marking him in that City United game, but he spun whoever was marking him, clipped that pass into Rashford and got the winner, didn't he? So yeah, I know what you're saying about Garnacho, but going back to Weghorst, the only caveat to what you were saying was, well, to be fair to what I was saying earlier, was around, I don't see many ways in for United with our defence. And that might cause them to swing in crosses and try and capitalise on free kicks and corners. And I'm wondering, could that big man be that thorn in our side? But like you said, Saliba and Gabriel especially is in top form, probably the best form I've seen him in an Arsenal shirt. To be fair,
Oh yeah,
Saliba's now slowly coming back into form post World Cup. Having not played for best part of 4 weeks, he looked a little bit sluggish coming back, but I'm starting to see signs of him getting back to where he was pre World Cup. So that's another positive sign. Yeah, it's going to be a great game, and I'm really hoping we can beat them, because I said it in the previous podcast that I know people keep moving the goalposts of, oh yeah, Arsenal, they haven't done this, they haven't played Man City yet, they haven't done it, and for me this is like the real marker. It's the midpoint. We've just beat Spurs. We go and beat United as well. Um, I think we'll be really taken seriously then. We already are, let's be honest, but
yeah.
really taken seriously.
Well, you even saw Gary Lineker tweet the other day saying that Arsenal are going to win the title. So that just shows you the belief of people that are from outside the club that think that Arsenal are going to win the title. But I agree with you with the Man United thing. I think if we do win this game, then that's when the bookies will start to put Arsenal odds on to actually win the title. Because I think Man City is still odds on, even though it's like 8 points behind. It's crazy, but it just shows you the absolute machine that they are. Obviously, talking about their bench before and the quality of players they've got, they've always got chance to just turn things on and win 12 games on the bounce. Do you know what I mean? So hopefully we can get over the line on Sunday and get a win. But even better if we absolutely destroy them and set a real marker down to say, like, look, we are at the top of the league because we deserve to be, and we're playing the best football. And I'm, as an Arsenal fan, I'm in such a great place at the minute, and it's just lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, spot on. Okay, we're getting to around about the half hour mark. Is there anything else you want to touch upon for the United game, or is that about it, do you think?
I can't really think about anything apart from everything that we've already discussed. All that I want to say, and I just want to give you all a little live update, is Spurs have just scored against Man City
Are they
to
really?
make it 1-0. And I would never normally ever celebrate a Spurs goal, and it feels a bit disgusting doing it. But yes.
That does feel weird, doesn't it?
Yeah.
1-0, Kulusevski. Wow, right at half time as well.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
City really are having a bit of trouble, aren't they?
Yeah, did you see? I'm going a bit off piste here, but did you see that Pep basically said, when questioned about his team sheet today, he said, "Well, if you perform well, then you play." So basically saying to anyone that's on the bench, they've not performed well. So it's like he's digging out his players. So maybe there's a bit of unrest in that camp, and that could play right into our hands if they're not all on the same hymn sheet and there's no harmony there.
Yeah, I mean, like you said in the previous podcast, in his post-match interview, he was already sort of admitting defeat in a way, wasn't he? Like, oh yeah, well, we're not bothered about the Premier League. We're concentrating on the Champions League. That's paraphrasing massively,
Yeah, we don't
but
care about the Prem.
but it's 2-0. It's 2-0.
What? Hang on
It's
a
2-0.
second, I gotta check this. Oh, it is as well.
Wow.
Okay, well, we've just got excited on this live pod.
Yeah. Would you rather have a Spurs win or a draw? That's a good question.
A Spurs win. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because they're nowhere near us. There's no chance that Spurs will catch us in the league. Let's just put it out there. With the inconsistencies in their game, there's no chance they can get anywhere near us. So I'm not too bothered about Spurs' win to loss ratio as long as they don't finish above us in the league. So they can win and lose as many as they want as long as they don't finish above us. But if that stops Man City from getting closer to us and it helps us and aids us to win the title, then of course I want Spurs to bloody win this game.
Yeah, you're right. You're spot on, to be fair. It's It just feels really gross to say,
Yeah,
doesn't
I
it?
I actually
It
saw
just
someone
feels wrong.
on Twitter earlier saying you're not a real Arsenal fan if you want Spurs to win tonight, and I just thought, shut up, mate. You've got to think about the bigger picture. Honestly,
Yeah, yeah. They're doing us a favour at the end of the day. Like, so
they
it's
gave us
almost
three
like
points.
you gave us 3 points and then took 3 points from our nearest rivals in the league. Thank you very much. Right, I think that's a good position to end the podcast today. So, a couple of days away, we've got the Man United game. So, fingers crossed we can get a result there. We'll have the podcast out for the post match reaction, possibly Sunday night, maybe Monday at some point. But we'll have to wait and see on that. But please have a listen in. And if you're not already subscribed, please, you know, hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much, guys. Take care.
Right.